Frank J. Avella here with Awards Daily. In the new musical Hell's Kitchen, stage sensation Kecia Lewis brings down the house with her Act Two number Perfect Way to Die. It's an astonishing moment. For her role as Miss Liza Jane, Kecia has been nominated for the Lucille Lortel, which she won earlier in the month, Outer Critics Circle, Drama League, and Drama Desk, and the coveted Tony Award nominations. Um, Kecia was in the original run of Dreamgirls and has been featured on Broadway in Big River, Ain't Misbehavin', Once on This Island, Chicago, The Drowsy Chaperone, Children of a Lesser God, and that's just to name a few. I'm thrilled to be here with Kecia Lewis. Hi, Kecia.
Hi, it's so good to see you.
Likewise. Kecia, you kill it in Hell's Kitchen, I have to tell you. And congratulations on the Tony nomination.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, how does it feel at this point in your extensive and impressive career to be finally getting this recognition?
The best way that I can describe it is that I feel like I've been getting 40 years worth of flowers thrown at me all at the same time. It's like toss, toss, toss. And I'm like, okay, thanks, thanks, thanks. Yeah.
I love it. So, tell me a little bit about how you first got involved in Hell's Kitchen, because I know, it started at the public.
hmm Yeah. So initially in 2021, I got an email. Actually, I can't remember if it was an email or a call from Michael Greif. Michael and I worked together in 1986 uh, during Big River, actually. He was Des McAnuff's assistant then. And he put me into the Broadway company after I did the first national tour. And he reached out and said, I'm working on a piece that I think there's a role for you in. I'd like to send you the script. Tell me what you think, and do you want to be involved? And at that point, I didn't know, that Alicia was involved. I didn't know that this was based on, events in her life. And I just loved the story, and I loved the character. And so I said yes. And then I found out all the things.
Well, there's quite a developmental process from the public, I noticed. Can you
hmm
speak a little bit about that? And were you involved at all in, helping to create Miss Liza Jane?
Yes, because I did my first reading. The show's been in development for 13 years, but I came on board in 2021. And so I've been working on this character since then. So this is, but way 3 years before the public. And I've done, I think, three workshops and we had readings. So it's been a lot of development. And I've been very grateful that I have the opportunity to create a really iconic person who represents what so many of us have had, creatives have had, which is a Miss Liza Jane, whether it be male or female, that has pushed us and mentored us and helped us to begin to shape who we are as artists.
Well, I have to be honest. I wanted to as I was watching, I wanted a show about Allie and Miss Liza Jane alone, because for me that relationship was the heart and soul of the show.
Oh, thank you. I haven't heard that before. That's pretty original. I think that would be a fun show.
I
Yeah.
do too. Yeah. So she's a mentor on all levels, your character. And it feels like the role fits you kind of perfectly. I'm guessing that doesn't happen that often.
It doesn't, I can probably count in 40 years. This is maybe role number three where it fit, the role fit where I was in my life, the age I was, what I was doing right in that time frame. Yeah, so it's very rare that it all kind of has a synchronicity like this does.
And was working with Alicia Keys as collaborative as you were hoping?
Yes, absolutely. It was more than I expected, quite honestly. I thought, my impression of her at first was, she's a celebrity, she's an A-lister. She's an established entity and brand and being, and she really doesn't need to be collaborative. You know, she could just show us the proof in the pudding that everything I've already done works. So just kind of do what I think it should be. And she was the complete opposite. Her way of working is to share with you what was going well with me. Her way of working was to share with me what was going on in her when she wrote the songs, and was curious about where I was in my life or what I thought about the songs. And I have the two least known songs, I think, in the show, with the exception of the ones that she wrote specifically for the show. But both of my big songs were recorded by her before. And I honestly had never heard Perfect Way to Die. I didn't know it existed. And so for me to get the opportunity to kind of put my stamp on what I know was going on in her heart when she wrote it, what was going on in my heart, in my life during the time that she wrote it, to be able to put that together and get a stamp of approval from her, you know, you can't ask for better.
Mm. And can you speak a little bit about A Perfect Way to Die? Because it's such a stirring song, and you perform it so powerfully each night, and I can only imagine that there's quite a bit there.
Yes, yes. So Perfect Way to Die was a song that came out of a lot of what was happening during 2020 when George Floyd died, and Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor, and you know, just on and on and on. And for me, being a single mom, my son is now 20, but in 2020, you know, he's a teenager, and having a Black son, raising him in America, without even talking about New York City, can be very, very challenging. You know, you feel like your heart is walking out the door every time they leave. And so, and preparing them for life is a little different than it is, I think, for most parents preparing their children for adulthood. So I completely related when Trayvon Martin died, which was also a part of Alicia's consciousness. When she wrote the song, you know, I saw my son. My son looked a little bit like Trayvon Martin at the time. He was younger than him, but we took a picture. I explained to him what had happened, and he wanted to take a picture of himself in a hoodie, and he wanted me to put that online, you know, to represent his feelings about it. And so I feel like being able to sing that every day, except for Mondays, is a privilege. It absolutely is a privilege. It's a reminder to us all of what we need to do as a society and pay attention to, so that we can begin to see this kind of behavior that goes on in our country, particularly with Black young men, can stop. It can absolutely stop. So I feel very privileged.
And I think yeah, we can learn from the Miss Liza Janes. I mean, I love your first speech to Allie. You start with like, my time is valuable, my time is limited. Right there, you establish that you're a woman who knows herself and
Mhm.
that you're willing to be a force in her life if dot dot dot.
Right. If you're interested, and if you show that interest to me, you know, I am a mentor. I have been for many years. And I've learned over time, I didn't get it at first, but usually people value the things that they pour themselves into, not the things that you hand them, that they're kind of tasting to see if they like what it tastes like. And so Miss Liza Jane is very clear that if you want to be a part of what I'm doing, this is what I require. You may sit, you may watch, you may not speak, you will wait until you're spoken to see, because I need to see that you want this, you know? And
And what
I feel that same way personally.
and she does listen because, she doesn't necessarily get along with her mother. It's very interesting, the dynamics in her life, but this woman comes along and she's really kind of a mother substitute.
Yes, yes. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. You know, whether you have a good relationship with your parent or not, there's usually at least one other person that is like a parent to you in some way. Mine was, I had a bit of a challenging relationship with my mother growing up. We're great now, but as a kid, it was hard. And I was a New York City teenager. And I'm sure my mother was very fearful about my comings and goings. And my Aunt Ruth, my mom's baby sister, was my go-to, and I could talk to her about anything at any time. And she could also give me some insight into my mom, you know, why my mom felt the way that she felt about having a daughter in the arts in New York City and just wanting to stretch and fly when that was not a part of her consciousness at all. I think my mom was pretty much at a loss. She didn't know what to do with me. I jokingly tell the story that she has said it over and over again that when I was little, from the time I could crawl, I would pull out pots and I would bang on them and just scream. Like I didn't even have words yet. And as I got older, I continued to do it. And I remember my mom just being like, "Why is she so loud? Why is she so loud?" We know why now.
Yeah, we sure do, and we're grateful
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
And, I love how well written, especially the female characters in this show is. I feel like you guys have that in common with another show on Broadway right now, which is Suffs. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, how did, that doesn't happen that often. We get The Outsiders, which is all boys, and I
Hmm.
mean, that's got to feel thrilling as well.
It's very exciting. This season has been probably more woman centric than I can ever remember. With Limpika, with Suff, with us, with um,
You guys
The
have another
Wiz,
play,
even.
The Wiz.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the mother play. I mean, it's
yeah.
just on and on and on. And I love telling stories from the perspective of a woman. It's very different than when men are writing it, unless they are true feminists, which there are more and more these days. So I feel very grateful to be a part of a season where this is the case. I'm floored by it. I'm really floored.
I think it's terrific. Keisha, they talk about shows being locked after opening night, but I'm curious. A performance has got to vary from night to night, right? Depending on the audience. What's your take on all of that?
Yeah, I mean it's locked. It's supposed to be locked in terms of the creative team making changes. That's what the locking is of a show. So, but that doesn't mean that the creative team will not come back and remind you of things. I got a note from Michael last week. He sent me an email. He watched the show, and it was something that he said to me several times. And I slowly get away from it, and then I have to pull myself back to the center of it. And the show is different every night. I've been particularly enjoying. I have one scene with Shoshana Bean, and I've been really enjoying how that scene has morphed from the last workshop that we did to the public to now, and it continues to evolve because it's playing tennis. We're playing ping pong off of each other, and then we have the audience, and we can feel them. And sometimes we don't know whose side, if any, they're on until we hear a reaction,
Yeah.
and sometimes that can feed a little bit of the scene as well. So it's very exciting. I love acting. I wanted to act way before I wanted to sing. Singing was a gift that I had that I learned, in my later teenage years. Oh, I could take some classes and learn how to do this 8 shows a week without breaking it. But the acting for me has always been the most beautiful part of what I get to do every day. And I love, of course, melding them together. Over the years, I've learned that uh, all we're doing is telling the story, continuing to tell the story, but there's music to it now. And so we get to heighten it a bit by singing. And I just love every bit of it.
Well, and that's that connection you have to the audience. I mean, my audience, they were loving the show, but I felt like their connection to Miss Liza Jane, and I felt it too. It's got to be tremendous.
It feels really amazing because I think that, quite honestly, after raising a child, and I'm no expert, but I know what I craved and what I saw with my son over the years was discipline or sternness along with kindness and love. And when you can find that mixture, it resonates with people. And I think that's what I found in Miss Liza Jane, trying to find that balance. I try to find a balance in every scene where there's both going on. And I think all of us yearn for that. We want somebody to help us and help us to be our best, which involves the discipline, but also remind us that if we make a mistake, we made a mistake, we're not a mistake. And that's the kindness, you know? And so I think everybody craves that, everybody wants that. And especially in someone who you admire and you want to learn from, you know, I think that that's what people respond to.
Yeah, what a wonderful way to put it. We made a mistake, we're not a mistake. I really kind of wish, our not to go into a whole thing, but our society right now feels the former's true, and we need
Yes,
to understand the latter.
correct. I think that our culture right now, and I blame reality TV. I'm just gonna say it. I think things got twisted once that started years ago, with this idea that we should all be either on our best behavior or our worst behavior. You know, there's nothing in between, which is where most of us live. You
Yeah.
know, we live in that in between space. And I think that our culture is so quick to jump on mistakes and so quick to jump on poor decisions and not take into account everything that a person is or has done. You know, not saying that we shouldn't hold people accountable for bad behavior or awful behavior, but reminding ourselves and remembering that we're all human and we all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. And it doesn't mean that we should be thrown away. It just means we need some grace, you know, and we need some teaching in an area.
So, my God, brilliantly put. Seriously. Um, so let's talk a bit about you debuted in Dreamgirls,
Mm-hmm.
and you were 18. What was that
Mm-hmm.
experience like? And you worked with Michael Bennett?
I did.
Oh my
I
God.
did. You know, I often tell the story of my last audition with Michael Bennett, where it was Michael Bennett and Michael Peters. I had auditioned 6 times over 2 years. I went to every open call there was. And then finally, I got a call from the casting director, who was Vinny Liff, a wonderful casting director, God rest his soul. And he called me one day and he said, "All right, little girl, you're going to get your chance." So I started auditioning for Dreamgirls when I was 16.
Mm.
That's when I started going to open calls. I would get the show business newspaper, and every time there was an open call, I'd go. And so he called and he said, "Michael is interested in seeing two of you, that I want him to take a look at. And the understudy for the role, that has opened up. So get ready." He told me what to wear. And and then my funny part with Michael Bennett was I was so gagged that I was in the room with him and Michael Peters. I was so nervous, but I was putting on my strong New York teenager face, you know, and doing the best I could to maintain myself. And then he asked me, he said, "Okay, the music is great. Let me see you step touch." And I was like, "What?" He said, "Can you step touch for me?" He said that 3 times. I did not understand what he was saying because I was out of my mind. He got up from the table, held my hand, and went step, touch, step, touch.
Mm.
And then I just kept doing that. And then he backed away and he said, "Now sway with it. Now use your hands with it." And that's the Dreamgirls movement, you know? But he had to like physically show me what a step touch was because I could not fathom that he had just got up from the table.
Wow. And then you had gone on as Effie a few times, right?
I went on quite a lot. Yeah, I covered Roz Ryan, and I was in the show in the ensemble, and I got to go on quite a lot. I was still in college, actually. I was going to NYU, and I was in the Circle in the Square theater program. And so a lot of my friends from college, my teachers from college, they all came to see me. I had just graduated high school because I graduated young at 16. And a lot of my friends from high school came, and it was very much an out of body experience when I think back on it. There's a lot of it that I don't remember. I just kind of went through it and did my best, and kind of hung on for the ride. But I have lifelong friendships out of that show. Probably the most significant one is with Adrienne Lennox. Adrienne Lennox
Uh,
was in the ensemble also and covered Loretta Devine. And she was the first person I met at the Imperial Theater, the very first person to say, "Hi, I'm Adrienne. Let's go to lunch together. You want to hang out in my dressing room?" And we're still friends all these years later, very good friends. We were
that's
texting
amazing.
yesterday. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
yeah, she brilliant in Doubt. My God.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you've had so many incredible Broadway roles. It's like looking over your credits, and then I looked through a few of my playbills, and I'm like, oh my God, I've seen her in Once on This Island. I've seen her in
Mhm.
Drowsy. I've seen her in Leap of Faith. I'm curious, besides Dreamgirls and Hell's Kitchen, what would you cite as a role or a show that has been most significant to you?
I would say the one that comes to mind was actually off Broadway. So I'm not sure if you're asking off Broadway or Broadway
Either.
either. So there was a show called Marie and Rosetta that I did at the Atlantic Theater Company. It was about Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who the vast majority of people have no idea who she is, but she's considered the godmother of rock and roll. And it was a two-hander that I did with Rebecca Naomi Jones, and we were directed by Neil Pepe. And I had such it was a transformative experience playing that role because again, it was one of those I was the right age at the right time with the right sensibility to play this role. And I just loved it so much. And I actually still hold out hope that it may get a Broadway run or a Los Angeles run or something because it's a beautiful, beautiful, brilliant show.
Wow. I'm gonna have to find it because now I'm
Yeah.
very intrigued. Uh, so, Keisha, tell me, what would winning a Tony mean for you at this point in your life and your career?
It's so funny. If you had asked me that probably 5 years ago, I would have said, it means everything. It's what I've been wanting, it's what I've been craving. But now I've been really pondering all of this that's happened with this role and in this time. And I can honestly say it would just feel like icing, you know? I had a mentor once who used to say, everyone can have cake without icing. You don't need icing. That person that you're longing for, that's icing.
Yeah.
Awards, rewards, it's icing. You can have cake with or without it. And I feel like I've had the substantive cake. My career has been that. All of this wonderful acknowledgement, like I said earlier, it feels like all these flowers are being thrown at me. And I'm just grateful. I'm trying to take it all in. It is exhausting going through this season. I did a TV interview this morning at 9:15, which means I had to get up at 5 and blah 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 blah.
My God.
But I'm not complaining, and I'm very grateful. I'm enjoying it, and I hope that if I do win that Tony, it will be the stepping stone to a platform of hopefully being able to talk about some causes and some things that are related to this role and them getting a bit more attention than they have in the past.
I love that. I love that. I want to thank you for taking the
Thank
time out to chat. Again, I say to people, go see Hell's Kitchen for Keisha Lewis.
you. Oh, thank you.
Just how I feel.
I appreciate that very, very much. I'm having the time of my life. People should know that. It does not feel like work. You know, the only time it feels like work is when I don't get enough sleep, and then I have to, you know, carry what I have to carry. And I feel like with the shows I've done and TV work I've done, I have a princess track. I don't have a whole lot to do, but my emotional track is
Mm,
like climbing Mount Everest.
yeah.
So being able to navigate that, I'm very, very grateful for the training I've had and the experiences I've had to be able to do that. So thank you for saying that. Thank you
You
very much.
you are most welcome. Thank you.